It's important, Honorable Malema, that as we debate, we should play the ball and not the man. Now, you spend a considerable amount of time playing me, the man. What is important in building this country is to play the ball of development. You spend a lot of time talking about how the National Union of Mine Workers was formed. I would like you to read some books.
I wondered for father.
So in this video, President Ramaphosa is hitting back on Julius Malema for what he called an insult to his father, and also an insult to his persona, and also the fact that he's actually, fighting the person and not the problem that is on the ground. Let's listen to how he addresses Julius Malema in this really intense speech, and I'll be back for some really interesting analysis on his clapback against the EFF and Julius Malema during last week's parliamentary debate.
It is time to get South Africa working again. Now, I want to conclude on dealing with one issue which I think needs to be observed in our debates in Parliament. It's important, Honorable Malema, that as we debate, we should play the ball and not the man. Now, you spend a considerable amount of time playing me, the man. What is important in building this country is to play the ball of development. You spend a lot of time talking about how the National Union of Mine Workers was formed. I would like you to read some books, but more importantly, I would like you to spend time to talk to people like Gwede Mantashe, who was a miner, who was one of the first members of the National Union of Mine Workers. I would like you to speak to people like James Mutlatsi, who was the president of the National Union of Mine Workers. It's a pity that Elijah Bahai, a stalwart in our struggle in the African National Congress, has passed on. I would like you to speak to people like Salai, who is in Lesotho. I'd like you to speak to people like Director Matala. I'd like you to speak to many members of the NUM who on the 2nd of December 1982 got together in Klerksdorp to form the National Union of Mine Workers. And as they formed that union, they said, we are building a shield and a spear that is going to improve the lives of mine workers. And they did exactly that. And this Anglo-American that you quote suffered the greatest brunt of the actions of mine workers. 5 years later, after formation, being the largest union in this country, they embarked on a 21-day strike and stopped the entire mining industry in this country. And you call that a sellout position. That was not. Speak to Mondli Gungubele, who was a member of the NUM. Speak to many others. So in doing what you do, play the ball. The question I would ask, Waar was Jay?
Marikana.
Waar was Jay? Where were you? Now, this is an important lesson. An important lesson.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable members.
Marikana.
Honorable members, can you please be in order? Honorable members, I wish to remind you, those of you who are making noise Friday, you requested the presiding officers to protect each and every one of you. Can we please be magnanimous and do exactly that? If you've got a point of difference, a point of debate, you have an opportunity when you take the platform in the debates to do so. Can we please allow the President to finish his address?
Honorable Malema, nna le wena re na le hwetša nako ya gore re dule fatshe re bolele. Ke nyaka gore re iphe nako mokgomana mošabi re ke re dule fatshe re bolele ka politiki gagolo politiki yane ya kgale e ke bonang gore a o e kwešišiše gabotse e ke bonang nkare o na le wa itse wa fatlhega ke nyaka gore re dule fatshe go etsetsa eng go etsetsa gore ha o ema mo o iphe nako ya gore o bolele ka seo se tlaisang ditaba tsa rena kwa pele. You know, o ile wa ema mo some 2 years ago wa roga papa wa ka wa re papa wa ka ne ile leponisa. And yes, I'm proud to have been the son of a policeman, a very good policeman. Ke boletse le nkgono wa hao, and nka se ke ka ema mo ka roga nkgono wa hao ka ba ne ke mo tlhompha le wena ke a go tlhompha. Ke bolela so ka obane go tshwanetse gore ha re le politiking re itehetse sa ore re thomphane re sumbedze uri re ne zwine ra khozita ndi zwine zwa ḓo isa lushaka lwashu phanḓa. Hezwi zwe wa zwi amba hafha ndo wana uri a zwi ngo fara nne fhedzi hambi zwo fara na vhathu vhanzhi hambi. So kha ri dzule fhasi nne na iwe ri ambe zwavhuḓi nga uri holu lushaka ru nga lu fhaṱa hani. Ni helela kwala ndi a livhuwa. Thank you very much.
A wounded buffalo.
Interesting speech, guys. What do you think? So we know that in this video anyway, President Ramaphosa is actually rebuking Julius Malema, who's the leader of the EFF, for just suggesting that he had compromised during the liberation struggle, asserting that Malema needs a history lesson, right? That we heard that really clearly from this speech. In concluding his response to the debate on the opening address to the parliament, President Ramaphosa advised Malema to focus on developmental issues rather than personal attacks, all right? He says that, Malema spent a considerable amount of time playing the man, right? And what is important actually in South Africa is actually building the country and not, to play the ball of development and not the man. And not the man behind the presidency. So this was how Ramaphosa put it, as we saw in this video. Anyway, on Friday, we know that Malema actually reiterated an allegation that President Ramaphosa was insulated from any form of arrest or harassment by the apartheid system, while his ANC comrades were either in exile or imprisoned. All right. So this was how Malema actually blamed his person and his role during the apartheid fight, in South Africa. Julius Malema also questioned how President Ramaphosa became the founding leader, as we saw, of the National Union of Mine Workers during his speech, right? And also he actually argued how he became the leader of the mine workers without being a mine worker himself. And he actually insinuated anyway that was an arrangement of the apartheid, regime at that time to help prop him up to maybe one day become a leader or something. So this is insinuation by Julius Malema. And Malema also spoke about his central role in the negotiations that ended apartheid and ushered in democracy. Malema actually implied that those negotiations during Codesa, right, resulted in compromises that left economic power in the hands of the white minority. So Jacob Zuma, anyway, who is the leader of Mkhonto we Sizwe, actually, echoed Malema's sentiment, claiming that apartheid could not have even lasted a day without black collaborators like President Ramaphosa. So President Ramaphosa was actually on fire by both the EFF and the MK party. Now, the EFF and the MK actually recently formalized their alliance, having been excluded from President Ramaphosa's broad coalition government, which they characterized as a regressive pact with the Democratic Alliance. And Ramaphosa, who was actually twice detained in the 1970s, urged Malema to learn about the mine workers movement and consult those who experienced the strikes of the 1980s that actually halted the mining sector. He's speaking now, President Ramaphosa. He actually says that I would like to speak to many members of the National Union of Mine Workers who on the 2nd of December 1982 got together to form the National Union of Mine Workers. As they formed that union, they said we are building a shield and a spear that is going to improve the lives of mine workers, and they did exactly that, said Ramaphosa. 5 years after formation, they embarked on a 21-day strike and stopped the entire mining industry in South Africa. And you can call that a sellout position. That's really crazy. That's according to President Ramaphosa, in paraphrasing what he said. But anyway, switching to Afrikaans language, he actually asked Ramaphosa that during this whole movement at the time, born in 1981, he asked Ramaphosa, where he was during the struggle with the popular Afrikaner slang, "Waar was he?" In response, we actually heard that in video. In response, the EFF, members, as we can see in the video, actually shouted Marikana, which referred to an email President Ramaphosa sent to a non-executive director of mining company Lonmin, urging concomitant action to address a wildcat strike before 34 miners were shot by the police, during the Marikana massacre. President Ramaphosa then switched to Sepedi, expressing his desire to educate Julius Malema on the political history. So that's the language we hear in the video. And for those of us who really do not understand that language perfectly, but anyway, the summary was the fact that this is the summary now. Actually, you and I need to find a time to sit together and discuss politics, especially the politics of days gone by, which I have not realized you do not understand very well. And I can see that you are blind to the politics of the past. So this is what President Ramaphosa actually said to Julius Malema in Sepedi language. Ramaphosa actually recalled an incident where Julius Malema insulted him and also insulted his father, who was a policeman, as we could hear from the video, when he said that he's actually proud that his father was a policeman. He said, Ramaphosa actually saying, he says in his words, you stood here some 2 years ago and swore at me, and you swore at my father as well, using the fact that my father was a policeman as an insult, all right? And yes, I am proud to have been a son of a policeman, a very good policeman, says Ramaphosa. Now, he now switched to Venda, which is now Shivenda, in the language we also heard from the video. He actually said that, in the Shivenda language, he emphasized the importance of respect in advancing South Africa. He says in Shivenda, when we show each other respect, this will be one of the things that we take our nation forward. What you said here will not take the nation forward. That's actually what Ramaphosa actually told to Julius Malema. Anyway, these remarks were actually unscripted, diverging from his prepared speech in which he emphasized the ruling coalition's commitment to transcend politics to foster economic growth, create jobs, and combat poverty. So it means he was really hot by last week's debate, when the EFF actually slandered him from left, right, and center. There was this, young EFF member, Naledi Chiwa. Her speech was explosive, and I really couldn't believe most of the things she said. But anyway, they were likely facts, the failures of the ANC in helping the ordinary black Africans or black South Africans, or even the average South African anyway, be it white, colored, whoever, from rising really, pragmatically out of poverty. But anyway, Ramaphosa still speaking, saying that the unity that we are forging will be our courage and it will be our greatest strength. It is time to get South Africa working again. And, he said that we must demonstrate in word and in deed that this indeed is the era of government of national unity and not a fleeting convenience, as many EFF members actually call the government. He's actually also ended the speech by saying that we need weavers and not vultures. So anyway, this is where we'll end for this video. What do you guys think about President Ramaphosa's rebuttal to the EFF chairman Julius Malema and to the EFF in general? Share your thoughts in the comments.